Hey guys, Ognajteff here, and welcome back to another episode of our Road to the Old Kingdom series. So, first, before I do anything, I must apologize for the drought that's been the last 2 weeks. A mix of frustration, a lost episode, and a lot of procrastination have sort of hindered my productivity. But now I hope that this episode is going to rectify that a little bit. Okay, first I should probably explain what happened. So, I decided to do something I don't really do on this series so far, and that was do a mining-focused episode. The big problem is, the mines here are absolutely cursed! Episode 2. I try starting, and I die twice. Okay, yeah, fine. 3 times. I died 3 times. Thank you, Nicole. Then after that, episode 5, I lost half the episode due to, for lack of a better term, recording problems. And now episode 6... Yeah, technically episode 7. Well, let's just say I lost the entire episode. So, with that in mind, why don't I show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. Yes! Got him. Okay, yep, I don't appear to be being it's a fortress. Yes! Oh, okay. I found both things I needed to find in one location. Now that's efficiency. I swear, if this is a fortress devoid of any blaze spawns, I'm going to be upset. Because I've not seen any sign of blazes. Oh, hey, a wither skull! That does not look too bad, right? Well... Okay! You've made your point. Let's just heal up and hope they don't spawn on top of me again. Breathe through your nose, guys. I can hear you from here. Yes. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for reminding me, and everyone else about that. Anyway, Nicole here, meanwhile, did a little goof up of her own. You see, I cleared this entire area and did an entire time-lapse about it, except someone didn't record the actual footage, except for the points between the work. And you said you wouldn't talk about all the deaths. Anyway, we have more important things to do, like, for example, going to bed. It's gonna get dangerous out here. Let's go. Alright, so returning to the desert area here during the day. So what happened, like I said, Nicole sort of screwed up and recorded the wrong segments. Yeah. Well, it happens to everyone, I'm sure. It's a good thing I don't pay her. Yet. Anyway. So today's episode, instead of trying to recap the mining stuff and all the nether stuff, also there is another secret project I didn't mention, but that'll be for next time, I'm pretty sure. We are going to focus on this area here, these dirt monoliths. Why? Because this is the area I've selected and sort of cleared out a little bit that is going to be the temple complex of our town. So this episode we'll build up the temple. Next episode we'll try and finish up the village a little bit and do my little secret project. And then after that, the village is effectively done, save for maybe a couple odd finishing touches. And then we'll be moving on to the next one, which would be the city of Buto and or Madi. One of the two. Basically, a lower Egyptian city, which will have a slightly different architectural style than this one. So, having said that, time to pray Nicole doesn't screw up this recording. So, yeah, let's get to work. So, just before we get into building, let me tell you a little bit about Set. Set was the god of many domains. Chaos, war, strife, storms, earthquakes, foreigners, and evil. However, all these things can be related back towards his principal role within the mythos, as the god of the Red Desert. The shifting and windswept dunes, barren and lifeless, describe Set's chaotic and angry personality, as well as inform us of his reception amongst the peoples of the Black Soil. However, he was more than just an evil demonic figure, but was also seen as a benevolent protector of the many oases that dot the Sahara, of the dead who walked the afterlife, and of Egypt itself when under threat of annihilation. The earlier you look back, the more benevolent his appearances lie. One of the oldest amongst the gods, he has been seen as a wise protector of its people since the early Naqada period. Some of his early mentions also invoke his name to assist in matters of magic and love, on top of war and protection, implying a very wide and old existence on account that his domain had changed repeatedly over time. So why this dichotomy between evil and good? The answer comes due to his association not with just the Red Desert, but the peoples who lived beyond it. During the rule of the Hyksos, and then later still during the late period, under the Neo-Assyrians, Neo-Babylonians, Persians, Macedonians, and Romans, Set was demonized and struck from the mythology as an evil figure. Evidence of his images and names being removed from his temples is one thing, but his stories in mythology, too, saw his role changed or be diminished. For example, one of the only stories that survived that cast Set in a positive light was his role on the solar bark of Ra during his nightly journey through the underworld. There's a far better video by OSP Red on the topic, so I'm just gonna do the YouTube dibs and send you her way, of course, because quite frankly, I'm just not that good. So once you're done watching that, come back here and I'll fill you on the details of Set specifically. You back? Okay, so each night after the sun sets below the horizon, Ra's bark is pursued by Apophis. As he stalks them through the underworld, various gods and goddesses work around the clock to halt or delay him as he attempts to consume Ra and destroy all of his creations, i.e., the entire world. However, there comes a point in the night where Apophis will close in to strike, and that is where Set comes into play. He, as a god of chaos and destruction himself, is one of the few figures able to fight the serpent head on, stabbing the beast with his spear and smiting him with his magic. Alongside him is Serket, scorpion goddess of venom and healing snake bites, who assists in the battle, while the other gods remain on the barge to protect Ra. After a fierce battle, Apophis is either slain or driven off, and the gods continue to cruise down the watercourse. In ancient Egypt, the principal guiding philosophy was Mot, loosely translated as harmony, justice, balance, or order. Set, as a god of chaos, however, still works within this system as the equal and opposite counterpart of Horus, creating a balance of chaos and order. Furthermore, in his battles against the serpent, he uses chaos, war, and destruction to support and protect the system and Mot, unlike his pure evil counterpart. However, during the later revisions of the late period, his role would be usurped first by having Set disguised as Horus and then replacing him entirely by Horus and Isis, and he would later become the embodiment of evil that the serpent represented. Speaking of Horus, the other major role in the mythology that survives to this day for Set is as the usurper in the story of Osiris and Horus. Long ago, Ra ruled the heavens, but he grew old and retired to his bark. He passed down his crown to Geb, god of the earth, to rule. But in time, he too felt the burden of age, so he retired and handed his crown over to Osiris. I'll hold off on the story of Osiris for later because, well, we'll be covering him later. So, long story short, Set gets jealous and murders him, and then takes the crown for himself, while Isis, the goddess, and Horus vow revenge. Upon coming of age, Horus challenges Set for the crown in a contest that would go on for 80 long years. The battles were numerous, and with Horus winning almost every single one, if not every single one. But Set would maintain the crown due to the opinions of the previous gods. At one point, Set will gouge out Horus's eyes, thus creating the Eye of Horus, a very powerful symbol in the ancient Egyptian mythology. But in exchange, Horus cuts off his... yeah. In the end, Horus would become victorious during a boat race and take the crown, but ruling benevolently over all Egypt. In certain versions, where Set isn't seen as an entirely evil figure, Set would be given kinship over the deserts and the lands beyond to act as Horus's equal, and thus both Horus and Set would be patrons and protector of the pharaohs. So just taking a quick aside here to watch the actual temple itself go up, this would have represented the actual house of the god being housed within. So often a temple would have a statue of some sort, and the priest's main job was to care for this statue, provide offerings in food, gold, treasures, whatever, incenses, olive oil, and maintain the grounds, so that way the temple and house of the god would actually be well kept. Now, in this case, we're using materials that would erode quite quickly, so maintenance was paramount, and a lot of these older temples did not survive because of the materials they were built out. Alongside the main temples, one would often find shrines dedicated to the other gods related to the patron deity. In this case, we'll be building two. One to Nephthys, wife of Set, and the other to their two children, Wepwaret and Anubis. I'll talk about the children more in a later episode, so for now, let's focus on Nephthys. She can be seen as a parallel to her sister, as both share many roles within the mythology. Where the goddess Isis is the protector of those entering the world of the living, Nephthys is the mournful protector of the dead and their families. She, as a goddess, brings comfort to those who have lost loved ones, and alongside her husband and children, protect and guide them in the afterlife. As stated, she was the mother of Anubis and Wepwaret, but there is a small problem. In the mythology, either both or just Set were completely infertile. This may be due to their association with the infertile deserts, where nothing grows, or due to the, incident. But within the mythology, Set was unable to have children. Thus, a problem arises. How did Nephthys bear not one, but two children? One explanation was that they were born prior to the, castration, or there is an alternative myth regarding Nephthys and her seduction of Osiris. Disguised as her sister Isis, she would woo her sister's husband, with the child of this affair being Anubis. A flower left behind by Osiris would be the evidence of the act, causing Set to become enraged and plot the murder of his brother. However, don't feel too sorry for Set. Wepwaret was probably his, and more importantly, Nephthys wasn't the only one who got around, as their marriage was not the happiest. And due to Set's synchronization with the Canaanite storm god Baal, he was often depicted as being in some form of relationship, be it romantic or platonic, with the Ugarit goddesses Astarte and Anat, both of whom would develop major cult centers within Egypt during the Middle Kingdom and the intermediate periods. There's also a telling of Set sleeping with the creation and hunting goddess Neith, making the daughter born of this union being Serket, scorpion goddess of venom and healing snake bites. Meaning, this has come around full circle, and Set's battles with Apophis is really his chance to do some father-daughter bonding time. Huh. At least he spends time with his children, eh? Anyway, here we go. This is our completed temple complex. So, to my left, we'll have the housing area, which I have yet to decorate, because that's actually what I'm doing now. So we have the housing area, and on the right side, we have all of our sort of shrines and the main temple here. Now, the main temple I have decorated here. This is the temple to Set. So here we have all of our offerings. We have gold, we have pots, we have some green wool, or should I say... Oh, wait. Aw, did it not maintain the name? I went to all the trouble to name this, and it didn't maintain the name. Well, that's a bummer. Here it is. Lettuce. Yeah, so the green wool represents offerings of lettuce, and then, of course, gold, and then we got some pots and some various other knickknacks. And the armor stand here sort of just represent a statue, mostly because I can't do small idol-like structures in this game. So this is about as close as I can get. Now, we just gotta decorate the rest of this place while I just talk about a few of the design decisions, and then sort of wrap things up and move on to the next little bit. So, first things first, let's just go over here to the acolytes' quarters. So the temple here would have a number of different acolytes, all just like minor priests whose job it would be to sort of take care of the temple grounds and, more importantly, clean, provide, cook, etc., and provide for the statues of the gods. And another thing, according to my rules, one bed, one chest. And then I'm going to stretch the rules a little bit here, since this is a communal living area. I'll have a communal sort of serving area. So we already have our crafting bench here. We'll need a couple furnaces for providing food. Well, we already have a chest there. Maybe some counter space if I just do that. There we go. Some counter space here, and then we'll have like a little bit more of a sitting area over here. Whoops. But yeah, this will be a shared living space, so all the people who work and live inside the temple will be able to have a space. Let's see. Maybe some of those. I'll need those and that. There we go. This way the temple staff can have their privacy. Now, I'm using wood. Furniture would have been made of wood, would have been pretty much just for the wealthy. You wouldn't have seen furniture on a large scale for poorer individuals. That's not to say that there wouldn't be any furniture for them, it's just less common. There we go. And then there. We have ourselves our little sitting and living area. Next up, we have this room, which will be the temple's main priest's room, I guess, for lack of a better word. This is the actual sort of priest and caretaker of the actual place. The other ones would be the acolytes. Let's see, what would be good for him? Let's actually give him some art to look at. I believe this is still the recipe here. Yes, okay. And because I'm looking for a certain thing, there we go. And then he'll have his own custom just set here. He'll also get his own chest. And then where did I put the furnaces? Maybe I'll double up his chest there. There we go. There we go, nice, cozy. Nicer than the sort of bunk area that we got for all the other guys, but not too nice, as it were. This is still pretty early on in our period. And then passing our mound here, which actually, you know, I'll focus on this for a second. So, my question for you is, what is a pyramid? A pyramid is just a really large mound of stone. Well, I used the word mound there twice now, once in reference to this, once in reference to a pyramid. This is quite literally the same thing as a pyramid in the eyes of the Egyptians. Not necessarily a funerary structure in this case, but a representation of the world in the eyes of Egypt. As it was said in the Heliopolis tradition, which is the tradition that this that Set himself is sort of a part of directly, that the world was at one point Nun, the primordial abyss. And then from Nun came a single spit of land from which, depending on the creator, Atum, Amun, Ra, some combination of all the above, dragged out of the water, and that would be the land that would come to be Egypt. So that's what this sort of represents here. And then, of course, over here, we're going to have our shrines to the various gods. So, we have Set in the main building. This one here will be Nephthys. Oh, wait. I've added one too many Y's. Nephthys. There we go. And then on the other side, we'll have Anubis and Wepwawet. There we go. So, as I've already explained, for Nephthys, she's the goddess represented for mourning, death, and the afterlife. And then Anubis, I don't think I need to explain, as he's probably the single most well-known god. And that is because he's the god of embalming, the god of the dead, and he's also the guy that does the weighing of the scales. So when you die, your heart is judged as to whether or not you were good or evil based on the weight versus a feather. And if you're good, you go on to the good version of the afterlife, and if you're evil, you get eaten by a terrible crocodile-headed monster. Fun! Let's see. Got some armor, just some caps here represent the heads. Once again, I'm just working with what I got here. Some offerings. Well, I'll give them some lettuce, why not? There we go. Any other things I could really offer up as an offering? Not really. Alright, so Anubis gets black, Wepwawet gets white, and then I'll give Nephthys blue. There we go. We'll put some pots in here to represent the various canoptic jars that she would have been one of the protectors of. Not directly. There was a god assigned to each canoptic jar, but she still would have sort of assisted them in their protection. And then just the other side now. And who gets the lettuce? There you go, Anubis. And now we are done. All of the shrines here are now full of offerings. We've got our makeshift statues. We've got a few hidden details inside the temple structures here. And of course, all of this stuff's dedicated to each of the gods. So, I guess, with that, our early-styled temple is complete. Now, the temples during this era would have been smaller, much closer to the shrine sort of thing. This is a bit more of a mix between later and earlier-styled temples. Like, this is the sort of thing you'd see in a lot of sandstone shrines you'd see in much later periods, just built up with earlier materials. Wood, packed mud, stone, or not stone, mud brick. And the thing with early temples is, none of them survived because these were the materials they were built with. The only temples that have survived to this day were the ones built later during the Old Kingdom, New Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, late period, and the intermediate periods, because those materials were stone and would be preserved well into the modern era, as opposed to these materials which erode relatively quickly. But saying that, that doesn't mean the gods weren't there, as the funerary structures would survive. So we do have evidence of the worship of Set, for example, as being one of the earliest gods, being found during the Amration period, which Nubt here is supposed to represent. And Wepwawet, is another one of those very old gods. So with all of that said, this is our temple complete. Now, let's see if I can't find a way to get up on the wall to overlook our village. Nope. Ah. I tried. There we go. So, in the next episode, we're going to fill in this region here with the rest of the village, and maybe try and do that one little secret project I teased. So, with all that said, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching. This has been Ognajteff, and I hope you enjoyed this episode as we built up the temple of Set, Nephthys, Anubis, and Wepwaret. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.